Everybody, and welcome back to another edition of the Migraine Mentors Minicast. We are your hosts, the Migraine Mentors. I'm Dr. Erik Reis. I'm one of your Migraine Mentors, and I'm here with my colleague, Dr. Thompson Maesaka. Dr. Maesaka, how are we today there, sir?
Doing all right, man. Yeah, I get the feeling that I just did a very complex puzzle. We have some interesting, challenging cases in the clinic this week, so it's mind is definitely racked today, but it's all interesting, and we're making progress with them, so it's all good. I'm sure you're very aware with that of that feeling as well.
So one of the reasons that we enjoy complex cases, and that is the for better, for worse aspect, is sometimes it takes a lot out of us as providers as well too, right? So, but there's a reason we can continue to come back to it is that we love helping people. And I think today's topic about genetics and migraines and, just because you've got the genetics in your background, does it actually mean that you're stuck and you're broken and this is like the end result for you? And so I'm excited to bring this conversation to light because I think a lot of people, I don't know about your experience, Thompson, but a lot of the patients that I have encountered who say that they are like genetically predisposed to migraine have essentially kind of made their mind up like this is the way that they have to live. And I think we've shown that that's not true with the testimonials and patients we've worked with, but maybe just give the listeners a bit of background on some of those aspects and why genetics kind of may load the gun, for lack of a better term, but the environment really is the biggest aspect to like pulling the trigger on health and happiness.
Yeah, I've always loved that phrase. I think it's pretty descriptive of just because you have the genes for something doesn't mean that they're always going to express themselves. There's a lot of things you can do from a lifestyle standpoint to prevent those genes from expressing themselves. And especially when with migraine, a lot of people hear genetics and they think like, okay, well, none of my parents had it, or on the opposite side, because both my parents have migraines, that I'm going to get them regardless. I think the conversation, it gets a lot more interesting and more relevant when we look at the things that migraine sufferers have, not necessarily inherited genetically, but are genetic in nature. So the two things that really come to mind are histamine intolerance and electrolyte inefficiencies. The short and quick and dirty of it is people that get migraine don't have the enzyme that break down histamine. So if you do end up eating foods that produce it, or if you're right around the time fall happens or spring happens, if you're allergic to a lot of the stuff happening outside, you'll have a normal histamine response. You just can't break it down and clear it. So it ends up circulating. And if you get a migraine while your histamine is high, histamine is, most people realize it has a lot to do with allergies and sensitivities and things. Also has a lot to do with pain. So if you get a paper cut, you'll notice that it swells up and it hurts. It's very sensitive to the touch, and histamine is very involved in both of those. It will dilate the blood vessels close to the cut, so white blood cells can come and make sure it doesn't get infected, and it will sensitize it so your body knows, hey, don't touch anything because it's a wound. So in the context of migraine, if you eat foods that you're sensitive to and you have circulating histamine, and you get a migraine, histamine is going to make that migraine pulse because it dilates the blood vessels. It's also going to make it hurt more, which anyone that's ever had a migraine does not need any help making it hurt more. So it's a terrible combination of things to have when you're having a migraine, which is why we're so heavy on the histamine-friendly diet. And it's all just because of a genetic inefficiency, or inability rather, to break down histamine. Yeah, the other, Erik, you've had one of the greatest clinical wins I've seen in practice so far with a migraine patient. Can you talk about what you did with her? Because it involved a lot of histamine and food intolerances. It was the one that was taking Imitrex, like maxing it out in the first 3 days of the month, and then you changed her food, and now she didn't take it at all.
Yeah, so that case, so she was taking, she's pretty much using her entire dose of Imitrex in the first like 10 days of the month. And then the next 20 days, she was like, I'm stuck and broken and this just sucks. And we had a pretty rapid turnout with her. If we get from like 60 days to her doing that to essentially using like one Imitrex a month and essentially not needing much of it at all afterwards, which is a pretty cool feat.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, well, a lot of it came from just the stuff that we've been talking about on here, and I've definitely learned a lot from you as well. So it was a team effort as much as it was a battle and a win for that. But a lot of the things that you just covered are really true for her. So one, and she knew this, and she told me the first day I saw her, she's like, "Listen, my diet, I know it sucks. I eat fast food 2 or 3 times a day. I'm busy. I'm stressed." She's working in a police department doing essentially like crisis management, which inherently is going to be a significantly huge stressor on her brain and her body 24/7, right? So she had a traumatic, early childhood kind of upbringing. She, deals with that on a professional basis as well. Metabolically, she was just very unfit. And that was really manifesting with her as, she actually did have chronic headaches and she also had migraines. She also had probably some metabolic syndrome issues as well. But for her, I mean, really at the end of the day, what we did is we just did a complete overhaul about what she needed. We ran blood tests. We look at her metabolic symptoms and said, hey, these are off. Let's address these. We changed her habits and we literally got her driving to work in a different way, different route. So she wouldn't drive around the same restaurants and see the same places that would trigger her to have the same memories and emotions. Like, I love this book. I'm literally going through it again, like James Clear, Atomic Habits. This has fundamentally changed the way I live my life and the way that I help patients change their habits as well too. So we changed a bunch of her healthy things with food. And then on top of that, we just got her to exercise more, better on sleep habits. I really helped her stay accountable. And the rest was really all the accountability that we put together and then we do clinically within, the neural connection. So she did awesome. She was amazing. She did an amazing testimonial for us as you've seen and as a lot of people probably see on our website. But that was a fun one because she really was genuinely convinced that she was going to have these for us for life. She did Botox, she did surgeries, she got a breast reduction, like she did all of these things to help herself and none of it moved the needle. And so, yeah, it just kind of goes to show how resilient people's, brains and bodies are. And Thompson, I know you've had cases similar to that too. I would be curious to hear kind of your hierarchy of thinking and thought processes for patients who are genetically predisposed for migraine, but are like, listen, I want to try something, but I don't know like what I should do. Like, what would be like the first, second, and third thing that you would say to somebody who is a new patient or a consult, being like, listen, genetically, I'm set up for this. I think I can get help, but like, what would you do and what would you approach to say this is the first step, second step, and this is the third step to help them get from here to here?
Yeah, that's a great question. And if you've been listening to this, you've probably heard some of this before. It's just such an important thing to drive home. It's a great transition. So one of the other aspects in terms of genetics, what is very unique to migraine patients that's not necessarily normal for the rest of us, is your cells accidentally let ions escape. So there's like this really important balance of charge from outside your cell to inside your cell. It's really, really important. If you don't have a difference between those two, the nerves just don't function. They just can't conduct electricity. And so a hallmark of healthy brain cells, healthy cells in general, is a very big difference between outside charge and inside charge. And when you have genetics that cause this sort of side door to open and these electrolytes leak out, narrows the difference in charge, which makes that particular cell very easy to initiate action. It makes it very easy to fatigue also. That normally is not that big of an issue, but when you add in a migraine, which is essentially like a big forest fire that just burns through your whole brain, any area of your brain, because of genetics, that has a very narrow difference between inside and outside charge, is going to fail. So just by simple genetics, you're accidentally letting out all these ions escape. You're leaving those areas very susceptible to failing during an attack. So the first thing, absolutely the first thing, that's just the lowest hanging fruit that I've seen produce tremendous results immediately, is just supplement electrolytes. Make sure your cells have the ions that they need to maintain a good strong charge from outside to inside, a big difference. You can also accomplish that big difference through rehab, which is a short version of what Dr. Reis and I do in the clinic. It's pretty much all we do is we just figure out where the places are narrow and make them big through stimulations. Kind of all the short version of what we do. Right after that, we go into, there's sort of the nutritional hierarchy, and I've talked about this on different podcasts, and I think it's a great way to first address all the underlying stuff that you asked me about, but also it works from easy to hard, from a behavioral change standpoint, from a habit standpoint. A lot of times taking somebody like your patient that has no background in nutrition modification and just going, okay, here's this 95 food lists to change. Stop eating everything you're eating and eat all of these, is like 100 habits to change at one time. So just start simple. First, electrolytes, make sure those are solid. Second, there's a supplement online called Mighty. The company's called Molina. It has all of the things that help with migraine from a holistic standpoint. If you're not taking it, go and buy it. We're not affiliated. It's just somebody made an all-in-one migraine supplement. Super easy. You don't have to take 12 different pills a day. You just take one. I think 2 is the dose. So those two things are the lowest hanging fruit that will give you the most results. And it also gives you, as the clinician, a good understanding of how ready these people are to implement new habits. That's a huge part of this. You have to be willing to meet people kind of where they're at, or you just get totally lost in the weeds. Then third is blood sugar stability. Blood sugar stability is, if you look at the research on like seizure disorders like epilepsy, keto and like paleo and a lot of those low glycemic diets are really effective in mitigating some of the triggers. And then last, if they're on board with all of that, then full histamine. If they've gotten to that level, yeah, I've yet to find somebody that gets all 4 of those things knocked out that doesn't have a tremendous reduction in migraine intensity or frequency.
Yeah, no, that's phenomenal. And that's literally a world-class advice that's coming from not only a phenomenal doc, but like the experience and the changes that we've seen with patients who just do those basic things can be the difference between having migraine symptoms on a daily, weekly, monthly basis to knocking them completely out. And I think the bigger thing with that too is if you do all of those things and you're still getting migraine symptoms, then there's probably something else going on that's not metabolic. I mean, we see patients all the time that have structural problems, neurological problems, visual issues, right? Inner ear dysfunction, that all of that together is just like slammed together. And if you only go after one side of that Rubik's Cube, then you might be missing other opportunities to get people better. So yeah, that was great. That was phenomenal. So, and that's a great point for us to end as well, too. For those of you who have been following us for quite some time, you know that we're here and to give you value and experience and all of the knowledge that we've accumulated the last couple of decades of being in practice. So thank you for those of you who subscribe to our newsletter and to follow us on YouTube. For those of you who haven't followed us or you're just finding us, we release our Migraine Mentors newsletter every Wednesday morning at 6 a.m. Our goal is to give you all the tips, tools, and tricks for you to help manage your migraine symptoms at home without the use of medications or anything invasive. And it would be an honor for us to have you subscribe to our newsletter and support us. We're here to answer questions and get feedback. So this is something that we're passionate about, and we just want to help as many people as possible with this. So with that said, thanks for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you at the next episode, and we will talk to you soon.